Hello, I'm Bob Cox. I'm the author of the Opening Doors series. I'm a presenter, educationalist, teacher for 23 years, and I've developed all sorts of strategies and ideas with the help of many schools across the country in the last few years to try to open doors to challenging reading for all learners. And we've been doing some really exciting work. I want to try and tell you some key strategies and key principles that can help you in the next 40 minutes to include and excel with your pupils. Now, you're seeing up here 3 illustrations by my personal illustrator, Vicky Cox, who's my daughter. And on the left, as you look, we've got The Haunted Hotel by Wilkie Collins. We've got To Build a Fire, Jack London, and Sympathy, Paul Laurence Dunbar. I start there with an image of richness, variety, all sorts of ideas and creativity that literature can give us. And of course, we want that literature to be for all pupils, every school. That's our dream. That's what motivates me. It's a kind of entitlement. It raises that issue, why should anyone miss out? And I've travelled so many miles off the top of my head: Hartlepool, Macclesfield, Manchester, Singapore, all sorts of parts of London, Birmingham, Isle of Wight, etc. Where I live, Hampshire, and it's very exciting seeing what's going on. I must add, I worked for Buckinghamshire for 5 years, 5 very happy years, a long time ago now. But I hope there might be some of you out there might remember the work I did then, which was very much the same principles that I'm going to talk about for English, which was high pitch to include those who are more advanced, but give access for all. And that's what I want to try and help you. Obviously, I'm going to be accessing many ideas and strategies from the books. There are 5 books in all. There are 80 units across the books. And the idea is to give support, advice, and help at the point of delivery. I really wanted to write something which could have a classroom impact, which basically enabled teachers to actually go further and be more confident, more ambitious in their classrooms with their pupils of all abilities. Some of the schools, we call them opening doors schools, that have worked with us for a long time have actually really asked a lot of questions about the word ability. And so I'll try to refer to learners all the time. Yes, of course, some are more advanced. Some find English and reading a little bit harder, but including them all on the journey is important. Timothy Shanahan, love his blogs. Start kids out with complex texts that they cannot read successfully. Then teach them to read those texts well. I really would recommend that. It's a mindset, but it has to be matched with an ambitious curriculum. So otherwise you can't do it. The two need to go together. The belief that that's what we're here for, and the resources, ideas and possibilities to do it. So let's make sure in every lesson that our pupils are going a little bit further each time with slightly harder texts. And I'm going to talk to you about how that access can happen and be possible. I'm seeing it in so many schools. Do take a look at my blog about language which might be archaic, which might have some old-fashioned grammar. Of course, there are issues as well that we need to ask lots of questions about with anything that's from the past. Although what we're trying to do is link the past with the present. But challenging texts produce for us opportunities. So do take a look at that. And that's a wonderful illustration from the Song of Wandering Angus, which is by W.B. Yeats. Opportunities, not threats. 3 strands to my argument. you need to build a rich curriculum. If you don't build and design a progressive rich curriculum, the rest of it is words only. You've obviously got to include all learners in that rich curriculum, but I want to add that third word, excel. It's sometimes missed out. It's as if it's enough to include, but the same kind of search for excellence is absolutely needed for all learners. So build, include, excel. We love using visuals. And visuals, whether it's primary or secondary, can be a huge lever in. I've seen so many lessons with open questions. What puzzles you? What kind of story might this be about? What do you notice about the house? What's the representative symbol in our minds of the mist? Yeah, that's a question that goes further. And it can take us in to a passage like this. Every minute that white woolly plain which covered one half of the moor was drifting closer and closer to the house. Already the first thin wisps of it were curling across the golden square of the lighted window. The farther wall of the orchard was already invisible, and the trees were standing out of a swirl of white vapour. As we watched it, the fog wreaths came crawling round both corners of the house and rolled slowly into one dense bank on which the upper floor and the roof floated like a strange ship upon a shadowy sea. I'll ask you to think about what the text might be as I'm just making one or two more points. I'll tell you in a minute. We encourage pupils to find links and connections. Rather than move in on where's the adjectives, where's the verbs, you start to almost micromanage too quickly. Their brains need to feel not just engaged in terms of happy and relaxed, but engaged in terms of learning something new. And so asking them to find connections can come up with some fascinating answers from all learners as they piece together some patterns of the mist and how it's described. Woolly plain, wisps, invisible, swirl of white vapour, fog wreaths is amazing. And that's one of those examples where you can go a little bit further and a little bit deeper in terms of thinking what a wreath means, what it might be used for in different ways, and why the fog is like a wreath. It's actually a Sherlock Holmes story. It's Hound of the Baskervilles. Well, we've found some incredible writing after some early investigations and explorations on vocabulary and the vocabulary context. The Morlane. I lay in bed thinking of what we'd seen that day, what we had witnessed. The moors are a truly dangerous place, full of beasties, hellhounds, demons, ghosts, and worst of all, the Morlane. Now, when I first read this, I thought, okay, this is going to be one of those descriptive pieces where they've learnt from Arthur Conan Doyle's fantastic story, and they're going to apply some misdescriptions. Actually, it went in a different direction. Sherlock and I were in a tea shop in London, having elevenses, a warm and comforting well-needed cup of tea with a tower of individually perfect cupcakes, each with their icing perfectly piped with its own unique pattern. Wonderful. And we found time and time again that challenging texts stimulate creativity, and the creativity is needed as much by learners who are more advanced at that point as it is by those who sometimes find basic literacy harder. Through the challenging text, you get that extra scope. We're trying to recommend the use of concepts, and it's going down really well. So Wind by Dion Brand, I'm giving you a little sliver. You'll just see which book it's connected to, because people always ask me afterwards which book was that particular text from. I pulled a hummingbird out of the sky one day, but let it go. I heard a song and carried it with me on my cotton streamers. Now that goes so much further than some of the poetry about weather which I see on my travels. When I say it goes further, it means that the teachers can teach more. It's that opportunity, not threat again, of the idea of pulling a hummingbird and how much there is to explore in that. And you can teach it under a concept, effective personification. You might get this, something like this. This is the whole poem. I'll get to the Pupils poem in a minute. I pulled a hummingbird out of the sky one day, but let it go. I heard a song and carried it with me on my cotton streamers. I dropped it on an ocean and lifted up a wave with my bare hands. I made a whole cane field tremble and bend as I ran by. I pushed a soft cloud from here to there. I hurried a stream along a pebbled path. I scooped up a yard of dirt and hurled it into the air. I lifted a straw hat and sent it flying. I broke a limb from a guava tree. I became a breeze, bored and tired, and hovered and hung and rustled and lay where I could. That stimulated faith. I came in the night. I came in the night, luminous black, dashing, darting. I made the street lamps flicker and jerk as I swept by. I saw the foxes and owls capture their prey. I stole the last of the voices. I threw them into the sea. I grasped the clock's midnight chimes and muted the awakening sound. And then the sun, the burning rays, the blinding light. I fled to the misty shadows and disappeared. Now, it's great teaching that produces that. It's the challenging text, the beauty of the text, the power of the words and language and style. But of course, it's the teaching. There will be, in the second half, I'll come up with and explore with you a case study where we'll go over some more of the strategies that we've worked with teachers in the classroom on, called the opening doors strategies. But it's always worth saying that is a product of a very hard-working pupil, a teacher, the text itself, and of course the continuity and progression, the fact that the pupil has read other poems before they came to Wind. That's the point I'll keep making. Miroslav Holub's The Door, the Czech Republic writer, a great writer. Go and open the door. Maybe outside there's a tree or a wood, a garden or a magic city. Go and open the door. Maybe a dog's rummaging. Maybe you'll see a face or an eye or the picture of a picture. Go and open the door. If there's a fog, it will clear. Go and open the door. Even if there's only the darkness ticking, even if there's only the hollow wind, even if nothing is there, go and open the door. At least there'll be a draft. What a great ending. Now, you could work on repetitions, and you could set up writing stanza by stanza on Go and Open the Door. But you could also move in on a deeper level, the darkness ticking and the hollow wind. We've had huge short burst taster draft writing on, because there's so much to say. How can the darkness tick? How can we use metaphors effectively? How can a wind be hollow? Compare that with pulling the hummingbird, the personification earlier. From Artemis, draw back the curtains. Maybe outside there's a rainbow or a shiny cloud in the bright blue sky, or shimmering shiny stars. Draw back the curtains. Maybe a cute, adorable puppy is on a rainbow. Maybe you'll see a sky with yellow lines, or a bunch of pink lines, or the picture of a puppy. Draw back the curtains. If there's a cloud, it will clear. Draw back the curtains, even if there's nothing there. Draw back the curtains, at least there'll be light. What superb writing! And they're all quality texts to quality writing journeys. And no apologies, by the way, for including a lot of reading in this session here. The meaning is in the reading. And we know we can raise standards by more reading aloud. And we find that whether it's poetry or an exciting piece of prose, the children's enthusiasm and learning goes deeper, and sharing the reading, repeating the reading at the right time, after they've got involved, after they've got engaged and interested and asking all those questions about language and vocabulary. Repeated readings can work too, but the drama of the reading or the subtlety of the reading is important. So we talk about reading for meaning. We find with Opening Doors that the meaning is in the reading, perhaps most of all, and you might be doing more work building comprehension than you actually realise with reading aloud. Do take a look at my publisher's Crown House Pupils work site. Plenty more examples. They're quality text to quality writing journeys. They show how challenging texts with really good teaching can bring across to all learners a much more ambition. They encounter more vocabulary and styles. They learn that challenge is good and normal. It gets it out of that arena of a project day or week. And so you build that habit of learning into your classroom. This long journey is important. This design of the curriculum can start with younger ones and secondary teachers. This very much is building towards your work. Example, comic classics. Look at this example of Great Expectations. You might then move to an extract like Miss Havisham, which we've got in Opening Doors to Famous Poetry and Prose. Maybe then graphic novels and parts of graphic novels that still have the actual text. Actually, you might then move to characters from Dickens across different books and eventually to a whole novel. We know that's ambitious, and we know that sometimes secondary teachers find, are pupils really equipped for this, and are they ready for it? Well, actually, they will be ready if they've been on a literary and challenging journey all the way through. School leaders, I think, will find this interesting. You can relate this to other subjects too. That building of concepts, skills and knowledge in small steps. So don't forget your transition work. And when I'm in schools and people say to me they don't like harder texts or they don't like poetry, actually they won't like it if they haven't had small introductions to it when they were younger. There is no reason at all why any learner would not respond to, for example, the incredible descriptions of Miss Havisham in Great Expectations. But those steps will make them so keen at secondary when the reading gets harder still. Aidan Chambers says, when faced with a new text, the brain searches through its archive to find anything that matches with something in the new text. If no match can be found, we say the text is too difficult for us. The more matches the brain finds, the easier it becomes to read the new text. Inclusion and the search for excellence is to do with finding those matches. It doesn't happen by magic. It happens through the design of the school curriculum and your own wonderful contribution, which I've had the pleasure to see over so many years, making a difference. And the matches can be found. So mindset that's kind of says they won't be able to do it could be replaced by they can begin to understand if we can start putting some of the matches there with our reading curriculum and the choices we teach it. Plenty of matches, I hope, here. Strange Gothic figures, a wood, a regal type person staring. That picture you can really explore with your pupils for a long time. What puzzles you? What might happen next? What type of story is it? What do you notice in the background? What kind of dialogue might be going on? And we move very quickly into taster drafts. Should be time limited or limited to words. In a dark wood, Prince Kano lost his way and searched in vain through the long summer's day is the start of the poem. Why not get them straight away after discussing the picture? In a dark wood, what else? And that applies to older ones at secondary as well, particularly if they're finding access hard. Slim down the text, make the short burst writing seem possible, and yet it's still challenging. Access is very different from saying, let's do easy stuff. It's saying you will be able to learn everything in the end, but you may need some more stages of teaching built in. And so everyone's included. But the taster drafts are really successful. Try taster drafts. This is writing for reading. I found in my action research that was a huge boost. Not leaving right until the end. And at secondary, do make those links between quality text and quality writing. And more creative writing actually will aid your pupils to be better readers, whatever the style. Schools are continually building access strategies. I won't read all these out, but over to you. We recommend them in our books, but we know there's more to be found. Opening doors is everything. If you can get that right and you introduce the text rather than just putting the full text in front of them and completely bamboozle them, we're onto some very special things going on in your lessons. And so that's a Prince Kano Routeway. It's got a pretty special ending as well, which we'll come to in a minute. Do you know what? Why not read more text? We call it link reading. Don't just do the core text. The core text can introduce your pupils to others. And if you get a range, for example, here a range of poetry, boost the poetry that they are reading. You can boost it hugely. Under those deep objectives, can you understand how poets use associations? So here the big concept is connotation. Teach connotation through Prince Kano. Then explore the richness of lots of other poems. That was Joseph Coelho pictured. I clamp my eyes against the wind and lean into its blast. It sucks my clothes against my skin and blows away my past. So you learn more about connotation en route. Lots and lots of reading possibilities. We've found that this approach, I call it link reading, not wider reading, because wider reading sounds like an option. Link it into the curriculum. Make the expectation firm, but still include lots of choice. There will be something for everyone. And then plan it in across the school. Very, very powerful. In a dark wood, Prince Kano lost his way and searched in vain through the long summer's day. At last, when night was near, he came in sight of a small clearing filled with yellow light, and there, bending beside his brazier, stood a charcoal burner wearing a black hood. The prince cried out for joy. "Good friend, I'll give what you will ask. Guide me to where I live." The man pulled back his hood. He had no face. Where it should be, there was an empty space. Half dead with fear, the prince staggered away, rushed blindly through the wood till break of day. And then he saw a larger clearing filled with houses, people, but his soul was chilled. He looked around for comfort, and his search led him inside a small half-empty church where monks prayed. "Father," to one he said, "I've seen a dreadful thing. I am afraid." "What did you see, my son?" "I saw a man whose face was like..." And as the prince began, the monk drew back his hood and seemed to hiss, pointing to where his face should be. "Like this?" Wonderful stuff. And Michael Rosen reflects some of the important things we've been saying about response. Poems are a midway point between poets and readers. The poet pours in one set of meanings. The reader picks up the poem and puts in another set of meanings, and the two meet somewhere in the middle. That's what reading a poem is all about. It's a conversation between two sets of thoughts, the poets and the readers. Now, I believe that the work that's done on Access helps to build that dialogic relationship between learner and teacher. And there is absolutely a place for your instruction and your direct teaching. But if it comes a little bit after they have already come to terms with some of the vocabulary and styles, all of it in the context of the text, I think you will find much more involvement and much more of a feeling that a challenging text is a fun text. There is reading for pleasure, absolutely brilliant, but reading for challenge is reading for pleasure. And it's a kind of pleasure that you open with your teaching. Into the case study now, where some of the things I'm going to say will be echoed, but there will also be new things to say about a particular text. I won't tell you which text it is at the moment. You should be able to see now some of the same techniques. The picture, the key concept, building tension. How can tension build as we read? How can we write our own passage or story with rising tension? We find that aids ambition, the deeper objective. I've seen some very limited work with what I call letterbox objectives, where there's one aspect which is drilled and hammered for a long time, and not in context. Here you can work on weaker points and gaps through the context of the text, because you're working on that long journey. You're teaching about tension through this text. Look at the tension there in the picture. How would you describe this schoolroom? Is it similar to or different from yours? Does the scene remind you of any stories featuring a scene in a classroom? Questioning and exploring stage. Questions from them, from you. You're building knowledge. Knowledge needs to be built stage by stage, and then it can be accessed. The skills and knowledge have that relationship together. It's Little Women, and it's a dramatic episode. Amy March has taken some pickled limes into school. However, sucking them has become such a craze that the teacher, Mr. Davis, has banned them. Amy owes limes to other girls and is planning to pay them back. However, a rival pupil, Jenny Snow, gives away the presents of her limes, and Amy must face the consequences. Why not do loads of link reading first? To Sir with Love. Dickens characters, Matilda, Demon Headmaster, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Brilliant, brilliant story. And so much there to learn about building tension. Choose your own. Choose a range. And a range of types of stories, past and present, and readability too. Get them to dive in. Put the text on their tables. Give some curriculum time to start the reading. And I think you will find if you can plan this into your school's curriculum design, then you will really notice it pay off. How do I know? Well, I've been into Opening Doors schools, and I'm in contact with so many schools. I mean, across the nation, thousands of people use Opening Doors, and I've seen what's happened over time to teacher confidence, pupil confidence, and standards. Pictures of some of those wonderful books that can be linked in. You may need to tell them more about the background. I always suggest doing this en route. After you've got them really interested, after they've already developed language and experienced different styles, then the time. It was a most unfortunate moment for denouncing Amy, and Jenny knew it. Mr. Davis had evidently taken his coffee too strong that morning, and there was an east wind, which always affected his neuralgia, and his pupils had not done him the credit which he felt he deserved. Therefore, to use the expressive if not elegant language of a schoolgirl, he was as nervous as a witch and as cross as a bear. The word limes was like fire to powder. His yellow face flushed, and he rapped on his desk with an energy which made Jenny skip to her seat with unusual rapidity. "Young ladies, attention, if you please!" At the stern order the buzz ceased, and 50 pairs of blue, black, grey and brown eyes were obediently fixed upon his awful countenance. "Miss March, come to the desk!" Well, I think you can see that even something written so long ago, your pupils can access and enjoy. And these colours are just suggestions. Is there a connotation in strong, direct speech, blues for command, greens for vocabulary and questions? Just a suggestion. Notice, noted, not sure is one of our more popular thinking engines. Write down everything you notice. Note down one thing which interests you the most, and then list your questions on not sure. Then in goes yourselves, the teacher, and teach more. Teach into the gaps, and it's there for everyone. And you can link a task to a text from the presents. And radial layouts are really popular. Instead of a list of questions, put that big opening doors question in the middle. How does the Louisa May Alcott build text, build dramatic tension in the text? That's a big question. And the support questions, I won't read them all out, and the greater depth are set out radially. That means there's no hierarchy. Why not think about using that for your English teaching? Because we've had so many comments from teachers saying the pupils don't realise or know anymore that they are, quote, low ability. And actually, those who are more advanced really have to work hard to get to the stage where the greater depth question is for them. You decide when. There could be some selecting of support questions, but please note the support questions themselves have layers of challenge. So the concepts we use have layers of challenge. The big question is a long journey, and the support also builds deeper possibilities. Through that multi-layering, you've got very much a differentiation by learning, so that it helps you to pitch to the right place. And the Wings to Fly titles that's where you are now. Having learnt from Louisa May Alcott, they can now write something brilliant. And they've done the taster draft to get them started earlier. They can look back at that. So pick your favourite. Could even write about things that are banned today in the classroom. It was pickled limes in those days. Ian Warwick and Ray Speakman's great book about Leonardo da Vinci has just given me lots of great thinking and big ideas. Look at what they say there. When an individual's interest is at its height, so too is their capacity to learn and remember. I've found that time and time again. That's why I think you should go in with the direct instruction moments when it is at its height. And I think that's when you move it away from what is the teacher telling me? I need to note it down. I'm going to have a test on it. You break that cycle and you move it into love of learning and your learners' brains and above all emotions wanting to actually listen to what you're saying. And certainly they will still be producing the better writing, and they will still do a lot better long term in tests. But I think their hearts and minds will be more engaged. And do you know what we are about? Of course, these great texts taking root in pupils' imaginations. This repeats what I've been saying. If we're very flexible, we see so many different methodologies work. Opening Doors is about key principles, not a model for English. There's no one model. And very explicit linear pathways can limit possibilities, I think, for teachers at times as well as for pupils. The flexibility of mastering a text and having a concept and knowing why you're teaching what you're teaching means that these broad routes might be possible. Immersion, making links, engaging and asking questions. Then, of course, there's the feedback, time talk, time taster drafts, formative assessment, and you give advice. And then you teach. And you teach into the gaps. You teach into what they need to know, rather than just trying to cover everything. And you've got some pupils who already knew it and a few pupils who have not got it. And things like the radial questions and the adapting the text to make it shorter and the visuals and all the access strategies means that pupils can be included at their own level. So immerse, feedback, teach. Christine Council talks about the deliberate crafting of readiness. That's what you've been doing. You've been crafting it, acquiring the raw material, making connections, and then making new connections via the link reading and the greater depth. And you've been able to teach your pupil according to where they are on, I think, that really useful arrow there, as the readiness is built by yourselves. By include and excel. That's been my keynote. All learners have access to quality texts. Adapt the access, slivers of text, visuals, role play, interventions. You pitch high, but you include all. And things like the radials, the tasters, the knowledge, step by step. That's important. Stage by stage, and you can evaluate how far they're going. Your inspiration is everything. Without it, we get nowhere. I'm always saying this. Try to realize that what you're teaching them is what they can't learn without you. That's your decision for the curriculum. You're teaching them texts, language, styles, poetry. Without you, the doors don't open. So, well done to all teachers watching this, because that's the value of your job. And you probably in recent months felt that value more. I think everyone has felt that value more. You've got the skills and knowledge to take them further. Of course, there's lots of books that have influenced me. According to my theme, I've got past and present here. So I can't include them all. But if you look on my website, I've got lots of resources, and the website will take you. And please let us know. Please contact me. Contact is coming up again in a minute if you'd like me to help you with your Opening Doors journeys. Those again are the books and the link. Don't forget here, we've got lots of free online resources. Look at the Reading School. And through the Reading School, we've worked on 15-minute talk-throughs which link with the books. I think you're going to find that really useful. They're designed for remote learning. They're designed for classroom use too, where you can play some of it, and they include tasks and possibilities. So do have a look at the Reading School, my website, and the Pupils' work. There are various blogs by teachers and organisations who've been on Opening Doors journeys. So you may find them very interesting. People normally do. Do contact me. And we're going to end with a wonderful poem by a French poet, Apollinaire. And it's all about challenge. So I will leave you with this. Apollinaire said, come to the edge. It's too high. Come to the edge. And they came, and he pushed them, and they flew. Wings to fly. Well done for getting your pupils flying, and I hope there's some ideas there for just nudging it on a little bit further. Thank you very much.